how poor you are if all you have is money. And that is a thing that I try to tell myself day after day, that I am struggling or I'm worried about things, and I think that all my problems will be solved through pursuing material things. And this is a paradigm that I've been trying to break myself out of, and I have only learned so through books, and these are the books that perhaps help me the most. I stripped down this list. There's a lot of books that have also influenced me to kind of understand this principle that money's not everything, that there's so much more, that there's a soul, that there's a depth that most of us lack, and how to find that purpose, how to find that fulfillment, how to find that aspect of life. These are the books that help me the most, and I just want to share them with you. So without further ado, let's get into the first book, which is Walden. And I think this is perhaps the best book on this list for any of these ideas that I'm about to share. And everything that you'll find in this book is what it takes to live a happy life, what it takes to live a good life. And the story of this book is that Henry David Thoreau went out into the woods to live for 2 years, 3 months, and 2 days, something like that. I can't remember exactly how long it was. It's slipping my mind, but that's not the important part. The important part is that Thoreau understood that there was more to life, and he felt like he was missing out life in the city. And this is in the 1850s or 1840s. I can't remember exactly when it was. 1854. But basically, Walden is the story of a man going out into the woods, simplifying his life, and understanding that in the simplicity there's beauty. When you strip your life down, when you take away all the nonsense, when you take away all the things like keeping up with the news, or keeping up with social media, or inserting yourself into a career and trying to move up and trying to make more money and do all these things and sacrifice everything for the sake of material possessions, that you are missing out on life. And really what Thoreau found, really the cathartic moment that he discovered, was that when he had the bare minimum of things, that he appreciated what he had. But when he didn't appreciate what he had, when he was living in the worldly world, he just overlooked things, because when you have excess, when you have more than enough, then you don't have the time or the necessity to appreciate things. And it's really through our gratitude, it's really through our acceptance and our understanding that we can come to a happiness. And Thoreau was probably the first person to show me that happiness is a choice and happiness is a decision, and the way in which we lead our lives can either direct us towards a fulfilling one or a hollow one. And I think I'm eternally grateful to Henry David Thoreau for this idea. But yeah, if you were going to read one book that I suggest to you today, make it be Walden, because I think it really offers everything else that every other book that I'm about to share offers, but it just does it in its own unique way, and it's really one of the greatest books ever written. The next thing we have is Man's Search for Meaning. This is Viktor Frankl, and perhaps some of the most harrowing stuff you'll ever read. He was caught up in the World War II stuff. We'll just say he was a prisoner. He was caught in these camps. We'll say, I have to dance around it. It's such nonsense that I can't talk about events and I can't talk about things without, things just happening. But basically, Viktor Frankl saw the worst of humanity, and he was forced to work, and he was forced to suffer, and he was forced to understand that most of his family was missing, but yet he kept persisting. And essentially, the thesis to Man's Search for Meaning is that when man has a meaning, when a person has a purpose, then they have life. And without a purpose, without meaning, without fulfillment, without something to work for, there's no point. And really the defining characteristic of this book is that in the worst of circumstances, Viktor Frankl was able to find hope. And because he had hope, because he had purpose, because he was working for something beyond himself, he survived. But the people that could not find that were not able to survive. And the parts of this book that stuck with me the most was when Viktor Frankl was being forced to work and being starved and all these sorts of things, that he was still able to appreciate the little moments. He was still able to see the happiness in being able to sleep for 15 more minutes, or being able to warm his hands by a fire for a little bit so that he could go back to work and be more productive. Like it's all sorts of stuff like this that just really put things into perspective and just show you that you can endure stuff if you have a meaning behind it, if you see the bigger picture, if you see the light at the end of the tunnel. And it's just a tale of the endearing human spirit and the never-ending power of hope. And one of those books that will stick with you for the rest of your life. Next thing we have is Ralph Waldo Emerson's essays, and this was actually the man who inspired Henry David Thoreau, inspired Walt Whitman, inspired a lot of people, especially when it comes to the idea of individuality. And there's a few essays in this that I really, really urge you to read. One that is very important is Nature, another is History, Another is Self-Reliance. Self-Reliance is his most famous. It's only about 14 pages, and it's widely available for free online. So if you're going to read anything from this book or anything from this list and you want to read something that's short, something that you'll get through in maybe an hour, maybe 30 minutes, I don't know how fast you guys read, but Self-Reliance is something that will stick with you forever. And essentially what Emerson is telling you to do is that no matter what happens in your life, if you are yourself, then you're happy. But every sacrifice you make for the downward pull of the crowd is a sacrifice that takes you away from yourself. And how could you ever be happy living someone else's life? Some of the quotes that really stick with me from this book, or from this essay, in particular Self-Reliance, is Socrates, Plato, Pythagoras were misunderstood. To be great is to be misunderstood. Another quote that I extremely love is basically, how do I paraphrase this? To be yourself in a world that seeks conformity is the greatest of achievements. And really, Emerson's central thesis is that if you find yourself, you find everything that you're looking for. And this is the spirit that reverberates throughout all of his writings. There's other essays like Compensation where he holds the idea that in every instance, there's equal parts good, equal parts bad. And when we can find the bright side of things, when we can take the experience as a learning lesson, as an opportunity that is going to become present, then we can understand that it's really just our perspective that shifts the way we view things, and it's really just our perspective that makes us happy or sad. The last thing I'm going to share with you guys today is The Power of Now. This is okay, so there's a lot of New Age books that are not good. I can tell you that. I've read a lot of them. Usually there's a few good things in them, but for the vast majority of these books, it's not anything novel. It's not anything that's worth reading. This is the one exception. This is the one New Agey kind of book that I'm like, yeah, I think most people should read this. I think most people can find an important lesson in this. And, the thing that really sticks out in this book is that Eckhart Tolle has an extreme understanding of presence, an extreme understanding of awareness, and pseudo meditative states, we'll say. And really the most important aspect of this book is that when you exist in the now, you exist in the actual world. But when you exist in the past or exist in the future, then you're trying to change something that is not possible. You're trying to go against the current. And how could you ever resist the whole world? How could you ever resist the whole nature of reality? And that's essentially what he's saying. I put it in a much more complex way, but basically Eckhart Tolle's philosophy is that if you are just living and you're not thinking about things, then you're happy. But the things that upset us are the things that we can't control, the things that are going to happen in a month or 2 months or 3 months, or the things that are in our past that are haunting us that we're still holding on to. And when you can get over these things, when you can stop worrying about problems that really you can't fix, problems that you really can't solve, then you free yourself for a much better life. Think about this. This is my favorite way to put this is, let's say you're dealing with a problem and you're worried about everything else. You're worried about problem X, problem Y, problem Z, and you're working on problem A. Well, are you really going to give your best effort on problem A when you're worried about problem X, Y, Z? Probably not. No, you're probably focused on other things. Your mind is probably drifting. And because you can't do your best on problem A, you're not going to be able to do your best on anything else. We only have so much battery. We only have so much charge in our energy. And if you're expending this on things that don't matter, on things that you can't control, then you can't give it your best. And I promise you, if you walk around in this world and you give it your best effort and you really go out there and you really try, there's a lot more slack than you think. Think about it this way, people always worry about bills, but you can always work with creditors. You can always come up with some sort of plan. Let's say your computer goes down and you were supposed to submit an exam and you email your professor on your phone and you say, well, this happened. That literally happened to me at one point where I couldn't submit an exam for 3 hours after because my computer couldn't do it. And he just accepted it. It's there's always room to work. We're always stressing ourselves out more than we need to. And when you try your best, that is all you can ask for in life. So stop worrying about problems that aren't bothering you right now. Stop worrying about things that you're not actively working towards. It doesn't matter what is going to happen to me in a week. If I'm not doing that problem right now, if I'm not working on that thing, if I'm not coming to a solution, then why is it going to operate my mind? What I really should be doing is, what do I want to get accomplished today? What thing can I do today that's going to put me in a positive direction? What thing can I do today that's going to solve some of the lingering problems that I've been neglecting? And it's just a way more holistic way of living, and it's a way more just enthusiastic way of living, and I found a lot of happiness through this sort of idea of being aware, of being present, of being in the moment, and not focusing on things I can't control. So with that said, these are 4 books to live a rich life. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Let me know if you have other suggestions for this sort of list, and maybe if I've read them, I'll talk about them in a future video. If I haven't read them, I always like this sort of genre. This is one of my favorite genres to read, so please, please, please send them my way. Don't be afraid to ever recommend me a book, because I'm going to read it all eventually. I'm going to read as many books as I possibly can in my life, so please keep them coming. I'm running out of suggestions right now. But with that said, I'm going to be releasing something else soon, but I do have a book out, so if you guys want to read that, I think it has a lot of the ideas I talked about today, put in a more philosophical, poetic, and aphoristic way. So yeah, if that sounds interesting to you, go ahead, check that out. If you want the stuff I write on a daily basis, go ahead, join my school community. That's something I update pretty frequently, usually on a daily basis, but if I skip a few days, then I put some more work in today. But I'm going to be publishing something else soon. Stay tuned for that. Love you guys so much. Thank you guys for all the support. I will catch you then.